And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We are getting into more Red Bull controversy, as if there wasn't enough already. Apparently, Liam Lawson, we can't wait to see him in Austin and in that car, fully deserved, I must say. But Liam Lawson has come out and suggested that he knew 2 weeks before Daniel Ricciardo knew about Liam Lawson being in Daniel Ricciardo's seat. Not only awkward for Lawson, but goodness me, what on earth were Red Bull thinking? And there's a bit more. So let's get into the first story though. And it's all about Liam Lawson, but it's Daniel Ricciardo apparently broke a handshake agreement before the Red Bull exit in Helmut Marko claim. Now, the words claim, Marko and Helmut in a sentence need to be taken. I know it's like a stuck record, which is also one of my favourite things, but a massive grain of salt. In fact, a rock, a massive rock of salt. A rock so big you could barely fit it in your car. Moving on, Helmut Marko, he's claimed that Daniel Ricciardo both broke separate handshake agreements between him and Red Bull founder Dietrich Mateschitz, I can never say his name, but prior to his departure from the team, and that would be at the end of that 2018 season when Ricciardo went to Renault. Now, as we know, Ricciardo was dropped by both Red Bull and VCARB early this week, and now the Australian's exit was confirmed after what was an emotional weekend in Singapore. He was treated to a guard of honour, which was nice, but he wasn't treated well at all. We've already spoken about that. We're going to get into more of that in a bit. However, and it says here, the Perth-born star shocked the team when he opted to join Renault during the summer break in 2018. Now, shocked the team, I don't really know. Even Planet F1 are saying shocked the team. Bear in mind the issues between him and Verstappen at the time. I know they're friends now, but it was very much Vettel and, what happened with Vettel and Webber. So his decision came just weeks after Red Bull announced a work partnership with Honda, and that was from the beginning of the 2019 season. So in 2018, around the summer break, Honda, they announced a partnership with Honda from the beginning of 2019. So the Japanese manufacturer bouncing back from a difficult spell with McLaren. There's an argument you can make that McLaren, yes, they weren't very good with Honda, but did the McLaren do the groundwork where Red Bull reaped the rewards? To a certain extent, I think that's true. But then Red Bull worked a lot closer and they seemed to compromise a lot more with Honda. And hey presto, it worked very well. Now, despite adding a victory to his tally at the 2021 Grand Prix at Monza, Ricciardo, and that was with McLaren, as we know, Ricciardo ended up leaving McLaren. He struggled. And then Ricciardo went into VCARB. Marko revealed that the Australian, as in Daniel Ricciardo, had assured him, both him and Mateschitz, that he would sign a Red Bull contract for 2019 and beyond. Marko said, "It was an event on the main square in Graz afterwards. We sat down together and actually came to an agreement sealed with a handshake." And this was all appearing on the Formula1.de YouTube channel. Marko has described that decision to leave as the turning point of Ricciardo's career, and it may well have been. He then travelled to Salzburg and did the same with Dietrich, but he had certain reservations about the Honda engine, which I completely understand when you look at McLaren, which Marko said would come to us, and apparently listened more to Renault, Cyril Abittel, who is now the boss of the very successful Hyundai Rally team. Now, Marko commented that Mateschitz, who died in 22, was unimpressed by Ricciardo's sudden change of heart. We'll never know, sadly, and it is Helmut Marko, so once again, we'll still never know, because Helmut Marko, can he be trusted? Yes, sort of, but, as much as a Daily Star headline could be trusted, maybe, but anyway, yeah, that's, if you're here in the UK, it's a paper that's, not the most, I think you get the idea. But he added, he was keen to ensure what you seal with a handshake is honoured. Yeah, I agree. Now, an exclusive interview with Planet F1.com at May's Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, Ricciardo insisted that he has no regrets about his decision to leave Red Bull in 2018, but conceded that he would probably have come to a different decision on his future in hindsight. Hindsight's 2020. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. And he explained, it's not that I look back and have regrets, but I just look back and understand, okay, this happened for this reason and I chose this time, but I know why I made the decision. If I thought what I thought now, would I have made a different decision? Probably. Yeah, Fair enough. But Marco's not done yet. He's now issuing a warning over the Verstappen quit threat. Yep, Verstappen has issued threats to quit, kind of like Red Bull have. Not immediately, but fair enough. Throwing toys out the pram. Verstappen is a very passionate man, and I get that. And I can understand why he gets frustrated and maybe says such things. Will Verstappen quit this year? I highly doubt it. Will he quit next year? I highly doubt it. I think he'll be with us for a fair few years. But then Helmut Marko has issued a warning to F1 over Max Verstappen quit threats. What did this font of trustworthy knowledge say? Well, as we know, this all stemmed from Max Verstappen's quits over the FIA controversy Sweargate. So in Singapore, as you may or may not know, Verstappen was handed community service, yes, but as if he was a criminal, by the stewards for a breach of the sporting code when he used the F word during an official FIA press conference. And this was the no swearing rule brought about by the FIA, whose president is Mohammed bin Sulayem. He wants less sweary drivers. Yeah, Verstappen, couldn't come from a better man, but Verstappen has indicated his displeasure with F1 in recent times, especially around the introduction of sprint races. And Helmut has come out and said Max needs to be taken seriously. He's achieved a lot, but it's important that he has fun and enjoys the sport. If that gets more and more ruined for him, then he falls out of love with F1, and when he says, okay, that's it, he will really mean it. Maybe not. But I hope the current situation won't really cause him to retire anytime soon. So then he backtrack on it. I mean, yeah, it is a sensationalist headline. It is Racing News 365. I completely get it. This is a double standard, and what's more, he wasn't referring to a person. He was referring to the car, and in a flippant way. Now, we said it here, down at the hot lap, completely on the radio. I guess he shouldn't do it, but we don't, but it shows the passion of the driver. It shows that they care. It shows that they're frustrated. It brings the driver, it makes them a real person and brings them to your living room. That's the argument you can make. Now, in the press conference where Max Verstappen actually did swear, should he have done it? No. Should he have apologised? Maybe. Should that have been the end of it? Yes, completely. But it clearly wasn't. So, but then Helmut Marko saying, it wasn't in an afternoon press conference, but if everything is handled so strictly, it will be handled very differently in the future, but it's clearly excessive. Yep, I agree with Marko there. It's quite rare I agree with him, but I agree with Marko there. He said, I read this judgment very carefully and had to smile a little bit, because part of the reasoning in it said Max argued at the hearing that this is just the language he learned as a young driver. Fair play. So here's the controversy about, not about Mr. Lawson, who is wonderful, and once again, cannot wait for him to go to Austin, and it's not his fault that he was dropped the way Ricciardo was dropped. But here we go. Lawson, RB told me 2 weeks ago, I would replace Ricciardo. Yet Liam Lawson, and this is from race fans, says he has known for the past 2 weeks that he would make his return to Formula One in the next race in Austin. RB announced today that Lawson will replace Danny Ricciardo in their lineup with immediate effect. And that's today, as in a couple of days ago now. During the Singapore Grand Prix, Lauren Meckie said there was nothing decided so far, which means he's a liar, according to Lawson. Now, regarding their plans for the rest of the year. However, Lawson said he knew before the last 2 races that he would take Ricciardo's place. I doubt Lawson's a liar. Driver, I think management are much more likely to be economic with the truth rather than a liar. But he says it now finally feels real. Obviously, I knew about it for the last probably 2 weeks, but until it's out there to the world, it obviously doesn't ever really feel set in stone. I couldn't tell anybody, and that's what he said to the New Zealand Herald. He said, it had been the plan for a long time now, where this was where I was leading. He said, obviously, I had a contract date that needed to be fulfilled, so basically it was going toward this way. There were a couple of weeks ago, they told me that this is what was going to happen, and then basically not long after that, it was set in stone. As we know, Lawson stood in for Ricciardo last year for 5 races. And Singapore was definitely not an enjoyable weekend for me, he said, just because obviously we all knew what was coming. At the same time, Daniel has always been good to me in a lot of ways when I drove last year. And even this season, he's always been somebody that I've never felt in competition with or anything like that. He never made it feel like that. And to be fair, at the beginning of the season, you can make a good argument that Lawson was in competition with Tsunoda, Ricciardo, and maybe even Perez. But he said, so it wasn't a nice feeling, but obviously this for me is I get one shot at F1 and it's come now, and I'm obviously grateful for the opportunity, but now I need to take it with both hands. And at the same time, he said the same thing to me. You need to make the most of it. And Mekies eventually indicated, yes, Mekies, the man, economic with the truth, RB boss, said this may have been Daniel's. He knew it was Daniel's last race, though. What is he? This may have been Daniel's last race. Lawson said he has a huge amount of respect of how he dealt with everything, because I can't really imagine that. I don't. But then that's Lawson's boss, so he would say that. It's a similar position I was in last year, but obviously the guy is is just a lot more public, a lot more famous than I am, so he's getting a lot of questions and trying to sidestep those. He did a very good job. Yeah. Middle finger to both RB and Red Bull. I mean, the way they dealt with it is absolutely amateur for a multi-million-pound company. Get a life, Red Bull. I mean, come on. Now, here we go. Motorsport.com saying, is Liam Lawson the driver of Red Bull needs the writers' debate? And I thought I wanted to have a quick look at this before we finish, because I thought it was quite interesting. And let's get the writers, because, Liam Lawson will race in the US next month, as we know. It won't be the first time. Only time will tell, says Philip Claren. The honest but boring answer is that the proof will be in the pudding. Absolutely, I think he'll do well, but you don't know, do you? I mean, who knew Colapinto would be doing as well as he did in the Williams? But I think there are certain cues that should provide Red Bull. He said every single driver on the grid can be fast on their day, but that is not what Red Bull is looking for. Daniel Ricciardo showed flashes of pace, and so did Perez, but neither has been consistent. It cost Ricciardo his chance to replace Perez in the first place, but the Mexican should lose his seat. Let's be honest. I mean, the way he's driving. So what Red Bull really needs is someone who can pair natural speed and adaptability to drive around car handling limitations. So essentially, they want a good, consistent driver, and that's what he's saying. And I completely agree. Lawson going straight to Red Bull could have saved it all the Ricciardo angst. This is from the Autosport editor. So Red Bull's PR strategy is such a curious thing. Yeah. I think that's being polite. Everyone in the paddock knew Singapore was going to be Ricciardo's last race. Just check out how many journalists had painstakingly selected pictures where you can see them in the background of shots of him as ways to say, so long, good luck. While a certain distraction, let's not forget, it's engaged in the thrilling scrap for Haas for 6th in the championship. But there's even better alternative for Red Bull, he said. Clearly, Ricciardo blew his chance to earn a promotion back to the big team, but swapping Lawson in for Perez straight away and keeping RB and its sponsors happy with Ricciardo is a far better solution than dropping the Australian. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Alex, from Autosport, the Autosport editor. You make absolute sense. I couldn't agree with you more. Red Bull has done that now, so it makes plans for it can make plans for promotion, along with surely an outside hire, they're saying, such as George Russell or Oscar Piastri. That's the rumours, or one of Lawson or Tsunoda for 2026 if Verstappen heads off. Perez has no chance of being kept as team leader, given his 2025 berth still isn't even certain, but were those 5:23 races where he outscored Tsunoda, although trailed him qualifying in place of the injured Ricciardo, not enough for Red Bull to know if Lawson had cut it already. It saw enough in Nick de Vries and one Williams race in 22 to promote him in the following year, Alex says. And perhaps it's how badly the decision backfired is keeping Red Bull cautious now. But even if the impressively ice-cold Lawson doesn't match up to Verstappen straight away ahead of 26, at least Red Bull would find out earlier in relation to getting him. So, I mean, the killer for me is when Alex basically says this. I'll just say it again. My favourite line. But there was a certain alternative for Red Bull. Clearly, Ricciardo blew his chance to earn a promotion back to the big team, but swapping Lawson in for Perez straight away and keeping RB and its sponsors happy with Ricciardo is a far better solution than dropping the Austrian. Yes, 1,000 times yes. If you liked what you're seeing, then please give us a subscribe. That would be amazing. Yep, new subscribe button there. Where is it? It's gone. No, there. I can't deal with the cameras and the way the pointing thing is. Stay safe. Hit that notification button so you do not miss a video. And we'll speak to you soon. 3 weeks now to go. Only 3 weeks left, I think, until the US Grand Prix. We'll be doing videos in between, though. Don't worry. Stay safe. Speak to you soon.